me start
Yeah.
recording. So, Avito brother, it's all about today meeting is your Anglo interview experience, and for that you have to share your experience according to which, and I will ask one by one questions for that, and we'll discuss how you answered first, and if
Sounds
we
good.
okay, okay, if we feel any doubt, we'll cross question to you. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let's start with the first question. Interviewer asked to you introduce yourself and how you introduced yourself.
So when you asked me to introduce myself, I mainly started with my name, then which college I'm studying in right now, which is the current course I'm studying right now. Apart from that, I told him where I'm currently, where my hometown, parents' names, brothers, sisters, what they are working as or studying. And apart from that, I went into a little bit of some hobbies that I have. So when I said hobbies, I just told him some games, this, all of that. And then with that, he said, okay, fine, fine, okay.
You didn't told your project and internship thing.
I didn't add that in my introduce yourself part. I kept that separate.
Okay. Then after he asked you any cross question he asked while in introduction after introduction.
Yeah, he just said, okay, Goa. So maybe you're also planning for IMS Goa. So I said, I'll have a look at all of the options.
Uh, okay. Then what he said?
Then he went to the next question without
Okay.
any further questions.
Okay. So why do you want to join Merchant Navy? Then what you said?
Yeah, so for this, basically, I was watching Praneet sir on YouTube, the mock interviews.
Mm,
Usually, what he said is giving some standard by heart answer will not work. You'll have to somehow show some activities in real life that you have done, which help you become a better candidate for selection in Merchant Navy. So I took this point into account, and what I said was initially in college, when I was in college, I was part of a robotics team. So robotics team means I'm dealing with tools, dealing with all of these deadlines, dealing with a team. So teamwork comes in over there, stress management, deadline management comes over there, how to work extra time to get things done in a given time frame comes over there. All of these factors. So I told him all of this and I said, all of this is also related to Merchant Navy. So these are some things that I've done and I like. So I feel like I'll be a very good fit for this.
right. Any cross question he asked to you regarding this?
No, so he said, okay, college teams got it because it was a campus placement. So he didn't ask any further this thing, cross questions about the college as such.
All right. Okay. Uh, then he asked you explain your college capstone project.
Hmm.
What is that?
So maybe some people are not aware and not to get scared. Capstone basically means your final year project.
Okay, this is called capstone project. Oh,
So this is called capstone project, just in another word.
interesting. Okay. Then what you said?
So I told him like, yes, sir, currently I'm working on a digital project considering fluid dynamics. So there's basically a furnace. When you have a furnace, like even if you see, take for example, a microwave in your house, whenever you have the microwave and you put it on with food, some part of the food gets cooked, some part remains cold. So I told him we need some kind of circulation in this thing to make it even. So what I plan on doing is take a normal furnace and put some air jets so that there'll be some agitation, which means basically some kind of motion of the forceful motion of the air inside the furnace. So this can help better evenly spread out the heating. So if I have some kind of ring or something like a circular shape in the furnace, due to this unevenness, after I take it out of the furnace, some part should not be hotter and some part should not remain without heating. So that might lead to deformation. So the circular shape only might get deformed. So I told him this is the project that I'm working on and it's mainly fluid dynamics, which means CFD work with computers and all of that.
All right. Then any cross question he asked you regarding
On
this?
this, no, he said, okay, good, good, and finish that and next.
I have one cross question regarding this.
Okay.
It the it's for when you are talking about to make cook food only, na?
Hmm.
So what if something like baking a biscuit and all a bread from where you are going to put a air circulation jet that will not distort the shape of that baking product or that thing we are cooking.
Yeah, so good question. The thing is, what I give the example of microwave is just for an example of the unevenness of heating. In reality, in such a small place, hardly whatever that small box is, 32 inches or whatever, you do not see such massive deviations. What about now heating an entire car? You have a 3 to 4 meter distance. So these will be mainly in heating industrial size goods of 3 to 4 5 meters or even 10 meters. So let's say for example you're heating the entire ship propeller while trying to form it. Now if suppose suddenly the main part which is connecting to the shaft of the engine, this due to uneven heating changes its shape from a circle to slightly deformed. I'll not be able to mount it and it might come out while spinning at full RPM.
Um, got it. Then after he asked you, what is your biggest strength?
Yeah, so again, what I planned on doing was keeping back to the same answer as previously so I can build on that. So this is also same thing that comes to psychometry. What sometimes he'll do is in the exam that asks you the same question three to four different ways. Some answers you'll say not sure. Same answer, same question when it is twisted, you're saying I'm very sure. So this means how is that possible? If I ask you, is this book blue? You're saying not sure. Then I'm saying, is this like light blue? You're saying I'm very sure. So it becomes like a sort of a fake answer. So I tried to stay and build up on what I've already said. So my main rock was the club from the university. So I again said same things, that all of those first part of the answer, that I have all of this experience, all of that. Plus I said specifically why I want to join Anglo is the good reputation that Anglo has. Oh, I think you skipped to the next question. Okay, fine. So biggest strengths. Yeah, so for biggest strengths, I said the same thing regarding the college that I have all of that experience. Plus, I elaborated slightly more that teamwork, how it is important on board ship. There can be less, human error because better communication between the team members. Apart from that, better communication will also help speed up the process so everyone is less tired or less stressed out due to things not working out properly. So each of the same points from before, like teamwork, stress management, all of this, I just slightly elaborated and pasted it back again to him in the same fashion.
Um, means you said overall that because of I am having a better communication skill, that is my biggest strength, and in order that can help me in while doing work there on board ship because of better communication skill, there may be chances of getting a
Less chances of,
less
yeah,
chances of
human
errors.
error, all of that.
So it was all about you said him that you have better communication skill in your strength.
So yeah, so each one of the strengths I mentioned, like this way. So better communication skills, I explained this much. Then I also told him about like stress management. I have experience in that. In terms of stress management, it also doesn't mean that you only manage yourself, but also how to control other people in that scenario. Plus, not to simply get frozen. Some people will be there like they don't do anything good, they don't do anything bad. Whenever stress is there, they just freeze. You can't have that on ship because the ship has to move on. So this is like small topics like this I spoke out to explain each one of the previous things that I mentioned, just so that the answer is slightly different and slightly more well explained, because in this case he wants to know specifically like how, etc. First it was just name and mention that way. Now it is slightly more specific.
Correct. It was very mesmerizing thing that you said. Nice stress management should not be freeze. This thing really will impact more like this kind of intellect. Okay. All right. The next question, like I think you have already answered why you should join Anglo. Anglo, why should Anglo hire you?
Yeah, yeah. So this is again a standard question that
Mm,
all of the companies will ask, and again Praneet sir has also given some answers that you can use for any company.
mm.
So whatever company it is, you just have to speak slightly good about the company and nothing much about that. So I said like reputation, then after that proper uniform, everything in their specific training center. Some training centers you might not have uniform, but here everything is proper uniform, discipline, all of that. Plus Anglo specifically by itself has good facilities on board ship, plus highly good in medical facilities. So everything is taken care of, spare parts from medical, everything are given on time. Everything is handled very well. So because of that, I said a few points and winded it up with that.
What about adding? You didn't added the number of ships it's having, the less waiting period it is having compared to other shipping company.
No, I didn't talk anything about waiting period because when Oberoi sir, who was my interviewer, came to my college, he
Mm.
said that due to waiting period issues, they've reduced the batch from 80 to 40. So I didn't want to simply trigger him based on that. So I just stayed away from the waiting period because any cross questions might negatively affect me.
Um, and the second number of ships.
Number of ships, I didn't talk much about that because I said it was sort of a large company, well established, all of that. So I sort of partially implied that it is a proper management company with its own institute, own ships, all of that, by mentioning that it's a large well established name which is branded.
Then he asked you a technical question, that is mention the parts of four-stroke diesel engine.
Yeah. So when he mentioned this four-stroke diesel engine, I was slightly taken aback. Like I was like, okay, so looks like today I'll have to keep on thinking in real time because what I had normally prepared or even all of the valve timing diagrams, etc., that you'll find on the net will be four-stroke means petrol, two-stroke means diesel, especially when drawing the diagrams. Even dreamer package, all of this is like the standard, but suddenly for me, I don't know why, he went with four stroke diesel combination. So I had to think on the spot and come up with a proper answer. So when I thought about four stroke diesel, four stroke is the main part, so four stroke will not change. Whatever is there in four stroke will remain, but the only thing is I'm switching to a diesel. So I'll have to get rid of the spark plug because uh, spark plug is not there in the diesel cycle. So that is what I understood and what I explained to him. So I mentioned the same parts such as the piston, cylinder, liner, then you have the crankshaft at the bottom, crank web, connecting rods, the same inlet and exhaust valve. You'll have your fuel injector. Apart from that, the engine block, cylinder head, rocker arm, camshafts, all of that. So all of these parts were mentioned, and I just kept in mind that even though I'm saying four stroke, not to mention a specific spark plug.
And carburetor.
Yeah, so I kept these things aside.
Okay. And inlet valve,
Yeah,
exhaust
so both
valve you
valves I
said.
mentioned. Yeah.
Okay. And then after you also explained the specific parts explanation, like a specific part detail and function, or just you
No, no,
name.
he said only this thing, like mention only, and he just wanted to check whether all of the parts right now, because he wanted to mainly get a cross question on some of the components that I specify. So he just asked that.
What he asked?
No, only this much. That's where I stopped my answer for that's first question. Oh, one more thing is, since it was four stroke, I
Hmm.
had checked in Dreamer. Sir has made a comparison, four stroke, two stroke. So he said four stroke you can mention the gudgeon pin, two stroke you can mention crosshead bearing. So I kept in mind that this thing. So I also mentioned gudgeon pin, which is why the next question came out from that.
By mistake, you mentioned Gaussian pin in the case of four stroke, isn't?
Yeah, I think it's there in four stroke, right?
Like, no, no, four stroke, you said Gaussian pin, and you also said crosshead bearing.
No, 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 no. Crosshead bearing, I'm saying, is
Uh,
what Praneet sir in the course has mentioned in his division between four stroke and two stroke. He has mentioned that one of them has the crosshead, which is the diesel two stroke, and gudgeon pin is for the four stroke. So I mentioned only the gudgeon pin.
okay, all right. What was the cross question?
So then the cross question was, how is the piston and connecting rod connected? Because I never mentioned before in my previous answer, where is the gudgeon pin? Is
Mm,
it connected on some valve? Is it connected in the crankshaft? Is it connected in the fuel injector? Where exactly is the pin? Because someone might think, oh, pin means a very small item. Maybe it is just keeping a valve open or something. So to find out if I actually know where exactly is this pin, the next cross question came, which is,
mm,
how is the piston and connecting rod connected?
mm,
So that I immediately had already seen the diagrams of where the pin is located, everything. So
mm.
I said, sir, it's connected with the gudgeon pin.
All right. Uh, One advice from you in this question: while we learn about parts of diesel engine, we also learn along with the function of everything. Like,
Hmm.
should we also explain while explaining the mentioning the part? We should also explain the function of each particular parts, or we should avoid that.
So
Should
I
we
think
avoid
it
that?
depends on the interviewer. Sometimes the interviewer says, explain. If he says explain and tell me, then you can mention some of the individual parts along with some explanation. But in my case, he has only said mention, which means just tell me the parts. Forget about the explanation, because he had plans of continuing the interview for quite a long time, about 30 questions. So once in his mind, he tried to avoid saying explain, but just mainly mention so he could cover up more. That was his strategy. I'm not sure why.
Okay. And why did you not mention the rocker arm, camshaft, and all?
No, camshaft I mentioned, push rod I mentioned. I think rocker arm I had not specified that properly. Like what is keeping up the valves open and closed. So because of that, he thought I might have forgotten about that. So therefore, he wanted to know more if I know how the proper working is. So which is why the next cross question came from that.
Oh, right now I am seeing here what is rocker arm mechanism. What you say?
So the moment he asked me this, I said, sir, basically the rocker arm mechanism is connected to your push rod, connected to your camshaft by the cam. So the cam is rotating, which is then pushing the push rod up, which is then pushing the rocker arm, which has a pivot point. So when the push rod goes up, the other side of the rocker arm will come down. These are going to be pushing open your inlet and exhaust valves based on the timing given by the camshaft. So this is how it is done. And I also specified that in some cases the camshaft and the crankshaft might not be spinning at the same rpm. So I only left it at that and I proceeded in front with
Uh,
that much.
what? It's my cross question. What were you
Yeah.
like? What you meant after saying that it's a ratio of camshaft and crankshaft is different in two stroke and four stroke? Is that or something else you meant? Just said.
Yeah, I wanted to just hint that I actually know that in two stroke, four stroke, there is a difference in the rotation of the speed of the crankshaft when compared to the crankshaft. So crankshaft and camshaft will have a difference in two stroke and four stroke. But I didn't want to explain all of this if he has not asked for that.
Okay.
So I just mentioned that they have a difference in rotation speed and left it at that.
All right. Like you didn't explain what rocker arm actually is. You just explained the mechanism how it performs its work. Its work. Like rocker arm is
Yes.
nothing but oscillating device. Did this thing you didn't mention? You didn't
No, no,
mention.
no. I mainly explained with him. I mainly explained what a rocker arm is by telling him its function and how it is working without any specific definition.
And then his next question was, how are the camshaft and crankshaft rotation related? How is this achieved?
Yeah.
How is camshaft and
So,
okay. Yes.
so in that, basically, once that is done, I said that the camshaft and the crankshaft rotations are different because of the different number of cycles in two stroke and four stroke. So in two stroke, you'll have only two cycles, like one up and one down for the full rotation of the crankshaft, but in four stroke, you'll have four. So there's a difference over there. And because of that, I need now two rotations of the crankshaft in four stroke, but one cycle is of total four. So only one rotation of the camshaft will take place. So now you have a 1:2 ratio.
Okay,
So
and
whenever I need the 1:1 ratio, I can simply use a chain to rotate it. But if I need a 1:2, I need some kind of gear in between, so I can create that 1:2 or 2:1 ratio, however you want to have a look at it.
I have a cross question. It's my cross
Hmm.
question. Uh, its rotation is twice and crankshaft because camshaft and crankshaft rotation is 1:2 or 2:1 whatever, but
Hmm. Hmm.
its rotation is based on the number of stroke power stroke generating all over the cycle. Okay, so you
Hmm.
just mentioned that by applying some chain, some gear, you just mentioned you can achieve the 1:1 ratio. I didn't get.
Yeah. No. So basically, what I'm saying is, if we are talking about the diesel,
Mm.
in that case, what is the ratio between cam and crank? It's 1:1.
Diesel, no, it's all about four stroke and two stroke.
Yeah, two stroke. So I'm talking about two-stroke diesel. In
Um,
that case, we have the 1:1.
all right, yes.
So if I have 1:1,
Mm,
now if I have two, sort of two tires of a car, if I tie a simple rope around the tires, if one tire rotates, the other tire will rotate at the same speed.
yes.
So this is why a chain works for 1:1. But what if I put a rope and if the tires are the same size, I
Mm,
want one to turn two times faster. So then I need to put a gear in between and get rid of the chain.
mhm.
So that's how you
Yeah,
can get the 1:2 or 2:1 by using a timing gear.
yeah. Gear also changes the speed, but that chain, pulley chain thing, uh,
Hmm.
just manipulate
Just
direction,
rotates it.
uh,
Yeah.
and also
So
change direction only, and does not change the amount of speed or something. Yeah, we have also
actually, gear will change direction. Chain will not change.
gear can change direction as well as speed.
Hmm. Chain will keep the same direction and same speed if both of them are the same size.
Got it. So the next question was from electrical thing. Anything other than before going on electrical, any other cross question you remember and you didn't mention here?
No, I think that's basically it. I can
Right?
check
Okay.
once. 1 second. Okay, as of now, nothing has changed.
Okay. So I will be asking the question 10.
Hmm. Hmm.
Explain three-phase induction motor. How did you explain that?
So when it comes to the three-phase induction motor, I told him first that there'll be three coils and they'll be connected in such a way such that when the AC current is passing to them, they'll be forming a magnetic field which will be rotating clockwise at a given speed or RPM basically. Then you have your squirrel cage inside, which has these thin rods that are being connected between the two plates on either side, which will then start to rotate due to this changing magnetic field of the produced by the coils, which is this rotating magnetic field, due to which that thing will experience a force and begin to rotate. And then I also mentioned like how they are asynchronous and all of that. So if suppose both are spinning at the same speed, then one of them, when I mean basically when you look in terms of the rotor inside, it will feel like as if there's no changing magnetic field because it's rotating at the same speed as the uh, magnetic field produced by the coil. So in those cases it will stop experiencing that force that is making it spin, so it will slightly reduce its RPM. But then again, when it reduces its RPM, again there'll be a slight difference between the speed of the spinning uh, cage inside and magnetic field RPM, which is by the electricity. So again that difference will be there, again it will start to accelerate. So because of this, it's called asynchronous, which means the maximum speed will be slightly lower compared to the actual RPM that the magnetic field is spinning at.
And you also explained synchronous.
No, no, I just said that this is asynchronous and proceeded with that.
Any cross question after this?
No,
He has asked regarding.
he just proceeded to the next.
All right. Next question is give me the classification of pumps. What you said.
So when you said classification pumps, I just followed a simple as it is in Dreamer copy paste. So I specified that pumps you'll have your rotodynamic as well as your positive displacement. So in rotodynamic I mentioned the centrifugal as well as the diaphragm, and in positive displacement I told him about the uh, gear pumps and all of those, as well as the reciprocating, which is like piston and all of that. So, and then in piston I mentioned single and double, and in gear I mentioned each of the types, which is gear, lobe, vane pumps, and in Dreamer it is also mentioned where these are used. So I just specified for one of them, gear pump like is used here for heavily viscous, and that much only. I didn't want to go too much
Mm,
into the rest of them. Yeah.
then he asked any cross question regarding this.
He basically did not ask any cross questions right now,
Mhm.
but later on he did ask where he said to draw the entire gear pump and explain.
Okay, all right. Before that, he asked to you what are some non-destructive testing methods. What you said.
Yeah, so I told him like there'll be the first one, which is like dye penetration testing.
Okay.
Since I'd actually watched a video on how it is done, so I slightly explained it also, where you have your first, the first dye that you spray, then you'll have a cleaner, so you spray the cleaner. After that, you'll spray the developer. So wherever there's a defect, it will show up on the final testing. Then I told him about acoustic emissions as well as X-ray, electromagnetic, laser, leak testing, and that's basically it for what I specified.
You didn't mention magnetic particle inspection. That is MPI test.
No, no, I didn't mention any of those.
Okay. Then he asked any cross question. Any cross question he asked.
On these, no.
All right. The next question was, what are the sum of the tools used on a board ship? On board ship.
Hmm.
Then what you said.
So here I've mainly specified a simple standard tool such as hammer, screwdriver, socket and wrench. Apart from that, ring spanner, the Allen keys, and then I also mentioned specific hand tools, which later I understood I should have not specified in terms of hand tools, but I mentioned grinder, cutter, lathe, all of those as well.
He didn't cross question you that you are a mechanical student and how you supposed to know these tools using on board ship. Any cross question regarding this?
No, no, he said okay, fine, and this proceeded.
Okay. No, then he asked what are the use of piston rings.
Yeah, so for piston rings, I mentioned that there'll be total of three, two piston rings and one oil scraper ring.
Mm.
Mainly, they are to provide the contact between the piston and the liner, so there's some sort of stability. Apart from that, they're also going to be carrying out the heat from one place to the other, and they also provide a lubrication to be nicely smoothly distributed. So I mentioned this much and called it a day on this question.
All right. And then he asked you what is saturation temperature.
Yeah, so saturation temperature, all of these I just mentioned that this is the temperature at which a liquid will boil into its vapor phase, and ended it slightly at this at normal temperature. I didn't mention anything like that. I just mentioned that it's going to be the temperature at which the uh, liquid will boil into its vapor phase at normal atmosphere.
Any cross question regarding this saturation pressure? He asked.
No, nothing much.
Okay. Then 20th question was what is sealing box and why is it important in a centrifugal pump?
Hmm.
What
So
you
for
said?
this, I
Yeah.
specified that the sealing box contains the gland packing and is mainly going to be placed so that whenever we have the shaft rotating, the impeller and the casing is present, there is going to be a gap between the shaft and the casing, because otherwise you can't have a rotating piece. There'll be a slight clearance. So the high pressure water that you create will start to leak from here. So we have this sealing box which is placed right there so that it can block this seal but still allow the shaft in the middle to rotate. Apart from this, I also mentioned inside this we also have the lantern ring, which takes a little bit of the discharge flow to cool the entire sealing material as well, or this entire sealing box setup.
And you didn't mention
I
that.
have a doubt.
Once, just hold for a minute. Will pass to you people that any doubt. Like you didn't mention that it also prevent leakage.
Yeah, so that's what I said. The clearance will be there, from there leakage will take
Okay, all
place.
right.
So because of that, this.
In writing, he asked only to make gear pump
No, he also asks full diagram of four-stroke diesel valve timing.
valve timing.
Yeah.
Then you you made all the circle just in dreamer package that this how you made it how it
Yeah,
was.
so I made all of the same procedures as four-stroke, but I just kept in mind not to show the spark plug. I just showed fuel injection.
Yeah. So you also draw valve timing diagram, na?
Yeah.
Like the same as in the dream.
Okay. A valve and gear pump. You explained the function of gear pump, how pressure is created.
Yeah, so he told me not only how pressure is created, but explain the full working. So I had to tell him about, there's one driver gear, second one will be the slave gear inside the casing, and
Mm.
then you have the teeth meshing in the middle, which is causing a type of non-return. You have your suction side fuel load coming in, and then it gets trapped between each of the small spaces between the gears and the casing. So it is taken all the way to the discharge side, and since there is no path back, since the gears in the middle are being meshed completely, it becomes non-return, so it has to be forced outside through the discharge side.
All right. Any other question you remember he asked you?
Apart from this, he also mentioned, oh yeah, he mentioned about the VCRS part. So
He also asked you to draw this.
what, VCRS? No,
Yeah. All right.
just explain.
Okay. So you explained, must have explained the four parts and the working of four parts. Other than this,
Yeah, he also said to draw exhaust gas turbocharger.
it was long interview, I guess. I just guessed that. Okay.
Uh, and the exact question for the gear pump was,
Mm.
draw the cross-sectional view of the gear pump and notate the direction of flow.
Okay. All right. Guys, we are having 2 minutes. Any cross question for Avito is you can ask.
So, Avito, who was the interviewer?
Oberheiser.
So, and do you mention the overlapping period in the wall timing diagram?
Mention the, yeah, overlapping,
Wall
yes.
overlapping period.
You just have made that circle, na? Like in wall timing diagram in Dreamer package, it has made to show certain angle like
Yeah,
this.
different angles from TDC and BDC, yeah.
All right. Just get started.
But while explaining, I told him the different angles, and I specified that you'll have your exhaust valve open while the inlet opens, so you'll have the
All overlapping.
cross scavenging takes place, which is the second phase of scavenging. So that's where he asked the cross question of how the overlap is beneficial.
Okay. Then you explained it.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. In exhaust gas turbocharger, you made that exhaust gas turbocharger specifically.
Yeah, I just drew like the main thing where I have the output coming from the exhaust valve going on the turbine, which is spinning, connected to shaft, connected to the compressor or blower, whatever, which goes back to the inlet side of the
All right.
engine.
So that was
Like
all
the
from
same
my
in the
side. Yeah,
turbine.
thank you,
Yeah.
Avito. And anybody want to ask something because meeting will be ending in some seconds. Okay.
There's no further GMET part, right, after this?
No.
Okay.
So, Avito, how was the response of the interviewer? Like, while you were answering the question, he was smiling or he was like too serious?
Very relaxed, like nothing too serious.
He was appreciating all your explanation.
Yeah, I think so. Basically, like very slow